Hello and welcome back to Watching Washington. I'm Julia Moran and it's Friday, April 10th. Let's take a look at the top stories making headlines this week. The U.S. and Iran are both claiming victory after a new ceasefire agreement, but questions are growing about how stable it really is. According to the Associated Press, the agreement was reached just before a possible deadline for escalation in the conflict. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the U.S. expects Iran to follow the terms of the deal. But shortly after the announcement, missile attacks were reported in parts of the region, and an Israeli military spokesperson said operations were still continuing. A key part of the agreement involves the Strait of Hormuz, where Iran's Supreme National Security Council says its military will help coordinate shipping through the area. The agreement centers on the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, with both sides agreeing to pause attacks. The White House says the deal came after a direct warning from President Trump.
What the president did is he basically issued an ultimatum to the Iranians. He said, open up the straits, stop trying to hold the world's economy hostage, and we'll engage in a ceasefire. And that's exactly the agreement that we came to last night. The Iranians have agreed to open up the straits. The United States has agreed to stop attacking. And not just the United States, but also our allies have agreed to stop attacking. And that is the basis of this fragile truce that we have, which is now, 8 to 12 hours old.
The ceasefire remains fragile as talks are expected to continue. Before the ceasefire was agreed on, Trump took to social media to threaten Iran. He stated the U.S. would bomb Iran's power plants and bridges Tuesday. Trump used expletives to get his main point of reopening the strait across. He ended the message with the phrase, "Praise be to Allah," which has stirred controversy from many, including the Pope and other politicians. The Pope sent his prayers out to all soldiers and called President Trump's actions truly unacceptable. Marjorie Taylor Greene took a more direct approach, accusing the president of not being Christian, as well as calling his followers worshipers. Right-wing radio show host Alex Jones even called for President Trump's removal from office. Tuesday was not as violent as promised, with the ceasefire being signed shortly before Trump's stated deadline passed. Looking at U.S. relations abroad, on Wednesday, President Donald Trump met with NATO's Security Secretary General Mark Rutte in a private meeting. Prior to the meeting, Donald Trump considered leaving the alliance. He claimed NATO ignored the U.S. during matters with Iran and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, according to the AP. Trump posted a comment on social media after, saying the meeting was, quote, "NATO wasn't there when we needed them, and they won't be there if we need them again." The meeting came after the 2-week ceasefire in Iran, which would reopen the strait. As of now, the president would need congressional approval before pulling out of the alliance. After the meeting, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte told CNN about his meeting with Trump.
To clear, he is clearly disappointed with many NATO allies, and I can see his point. But at the same time, I was also able to point to the fact that the large majority of European nations has been helpful with basing, with logistics, with overflights, with making sure that they lived up to the commitments. And there is also widespread support for the fact that degrading the nuclear and the ballistic missile capacity from Iran was really crucial. And that only the US was able at this point to do that.
From the U.S. abroad to the U.S. in space, NASA's Artemis II mission is coming to an end as the crew prepares to return to Earth.
A few days ago, I showed you some imagery of the crew module images we got down from our first external survey that was right after the TLI burn. So we actually do another external survey on the way home. This is our inbound external inspection. So I think we got the next slide. Yeah, so this is kind of 2 different views of the spacecraft. Again, did a comprehensive review of all the imagery that we were getting down off the surface of the crew module. No concerns, no issues seen that would make us have any pause for the reentry phase. Everything is in excellent condition for that entry. So that's our pretty crew module. I think we have a couple of pictures of the service module as well. Yeah, so we obviously don't bring the service module home. As we mentioned, that gets separated about 40 minutes before splashdown. But we did get some nice imagery. And the next one I thought was interesting. It's a picture of the solar arrays, but it's actually the backside of the solar array, which we don't normally see. So anyway, poured over all this imagery, and everything looks really good for the return.
NASA says the capsule is expected to land off the coast of San Diego this evening. NASA is also sharing new discoveries from its Artemis mission, including a powerful personal story from space. After the Artemis II mission surpassed Apollo 13's distance record, this mission is the farthest humans have ever traveled from Earth. The crew requested to name 2 craters on the moon. One will be called Integrity after the Orion spacecraft. The other, Carol, honors Commander Reed Wiseman's late wife, who passed away in 2020 after a battle with cancer. NASA says moments like this show the human side of space exploration. Newly released images from the mission also show incredible detail, giving viewers a close-up look at the moon and Earth. Officials say the quality of these images makes it feel like you are right there with the crew. NASA says these missions continue to push boundaries both scientifically and humanly. Looking at the latest election news, Republican Clay Fuller, a Trump-backed candidate, won the special runoff election in Georgia's 14th congressional district. He will replace former GOP Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene announced she was resigning from office in January. Fuller defeated Sean Harris, a farmer and retired Army Brigadier General who lost to Greene by nearly 30 percentage points in 2024. Harris conceded Tuesday night, saying, quote, "It was a fair race. It was a hard-fought race."
So much of what you're going to hear from the fake news media is that President Trump doesn't mean anything to Georgia 14 anymore. Well, you can see with the results on March 10th, and you can see the results of what we're seeing here today, that President Trump is the most critical factor in our election.
In Wisconsin, Judge Chris Taylor is projected to win a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. On Tuesday, Taylor defeated conservative Judge Maria Laser in the race to replace a retiring conservative judge. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel says the results were in within 30 minutes of the polls closing Tuesday night. Wisconsin is a key battleground state, and this victory expands the court's liberal majority to 5-2, according to NBC News. Taylor previously served as a Democratic legislator and was an attorney for Planned Parenthood. She outraised her opponent and got support from several top Democrats.
I am so honored that I get to continue this work at the state Supreme Court. It is an honor that the people of Wisconsin have bestowed on me that I will never, ever forget, and I treasure it.
The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel also reports that Taylor won't officially take office until August 1st. Up next, an American journalist released, plus a new executive order on college sports. Stay with us. More Watching Washington next.
Being involved in the 3-year program at Purdue made it easier to say to myself I could get done in 3 years. The 3-year program helped save me a ton of money. Not completing my 4th year, I would save around $30,000. It will give you an advantage, if anything. Doing the 3-year program at Purdue has shown me that I have motivation to do whatever it takes to get my degree.
Hi there, my name is Vikram Jaithlak and I'm the founder and president of the Purdue chapter of the University Blood Initiative. Over the past 2 years, we've been able to collect over 300 pints of blood to be donated to local hospitals, and you can be the next one to help out.
I donate my blood at the University Blood Initiative.
Hi, I just donated blood through the University Blood Initiative.
Hi, I just donated blood through the University Blood Initiative at Purdue.
Right, I donated my blood through the University Blood Initiative at Purdue.
And I donated my blood at University Blood Initiative at Purdue.
Are you looking for a new hobby?
Or do you want to have a fun evening with your friends?
Then come climb to new heights at the Co-Rec Climbing Wall.
Football. It's the best time of the year. You know what else is great? The world's largest and fastest mascot. You can't have Purdue football without the trains. Look for the Reamer Club outside Stewart Center, 12 to 5 p.m. on Fridays before home football games, for your chance to ride the Boilermaker Special for free. See you then!
You're watching Fast Track News.
The American journalist previously kidnapped in Iraq is now released. According to Reuters, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed that journalist Shelley Kittleston has been released after being kidnapped in Baghdad last week. Iraqi government officials said she was held in the city before her release. The Iran-backed group Kataib Hezbollah said the group agreed to release her, but required her to leave Iraq immediately. The U.S. State Department indicated it's currently working to assist Shelley Kittleston in leaving Iraq safely. Looking back home, gas prices continue to rise across the U.S. as global energy markets remain under pressure. The average price of a gallon of gasoline across the United States has now reached $4.12. Since the conflict in Iran began, this price has risen by nearly 40%. Last week, gas prices exceeded the $4 mark for the first time since 2022. Energy analysts say gasoline prices typically lag behind changes in oil prices, which means that even if oil prices fall, drivers may not immediately feel the relief. From gas prices to college sports, President Trump signed an executive order Friday to regulate the NCAA. This aims to limit athletes transferring, eligibility years, and change NIL rules. In a White House press release, President Trump outlined his plan to, quote, preserve the unique American institution of college athletics. A statement from NCAA President Charlie Baker echoed this sentiment. Baker said, quote, the NCAA has modernized college sports to deliver more benefits for student athletes, and the executive order reinforces many of our mandatory protections, including guaranteed health care coverage, mental health services, and scholarship protections. This order urges immediate federal reform rather than taking direct action, meaning these statements are not definite. In other college sports news, a heated discussion dominated women's March Madness headlines last Friday. University of Connecticut women's basketball head coach Geno Auriemma butted heads with South Carolina coach Dawn Staley after their Final Four matchup. On Saturday, Auriemma apologized for poor sportsmanship. Staley urged fans to move on from the incident in a social media post Tuesday, saying, quote, one moment doesn't define a career. Our last story this week. On Wednesday, Jasveen Sangha was sentenced to 15 years in prison for illegally selling ketamine to actor Matthew Perry, which ultimately led to his passing. Jasveen Sangha pled guilty to 5 federal charges connected to Matthew Perry's death, according to the New York Times. The charges were 3 counts of distribution of ketamine, 1 count of distribution of ketamine resulting in death, and 1 count of maintaining a drug-involved premises. Sangha faced up to 65 years in prison, but due to pleading guilty, was only charged with 15. She sold over 50 vials to Matthew Perry's assistant, one being the fatal dosage. Her lawyer told reporters he thought the sentencing was unfair since others involved received less time. Keith Morrison, Matthew Perry's stepfather, told Sangha in court he feels bad for her, not because she's a drug dealer, but because she supplied an addict. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for watching. See you next time on Watching Washington.